Okay, folks, good morning. Patriot never left. Good morning to you. I assume you're like me, you got up early. I need to get some sleep. But it's generally a waste of time. Man, we had a productive evening last night. That was excellent. That was excellent. So, we turned this into this. And, you probably like me, get up at 5 a.m. every morning. Yep. And, transition to laptop, yeah. So let's see. Let's do a little better than that. Let's do this. See if we can. Now let me find where this thing is on the screen. There we go. And it's pretty easy. I mean, it just takes some time. It takes some effort, and it starts looking like I'm on the wrong track. You start painting this like, man, this looks like it's not going to turn out, but it's the right color, or it's good enough. I've got the paints, so as somebody was asking me, do I like these MIG paints? I do. They're a little bit more watery than I would like, which means I waste even more than normal, but they're pretty decent. I will probably rebuy them again when I get low. Yeah, they work. They work really well. I don't have to thin them down, but I do have to put them on a card. I can't use them on a wet palette. So it's no big deal. It's probably less of a big deal this time than the time before because I kind of knew what I was getting into. And we'll take some pictures of this in natural light. It's going to look kind of, it looks a little more greenish than it actually is. So it works pretty well. So. Wow, Nordic's awake too. Holy smokes. You can't sleep during an ear infection. Oh, man. Okay, so what do we have planned today? Well, we're going to get rid of this thing because this thing is not... I got, I think, 3 more of these to do. I've done 2, right? These 2. I've got 3 more of them to do. I got 5. I don't have to do them next, though. We're going to do the Flampanzer 3 next. We're going to do the Flampanzer 3 from Eschi, as we always would call them at the hobby store. I don't know, do people call it Eschi or ESCI? I always called it Eschi. But then that support weapon for the U.S. World War II squad, I never called it a bar. You hear something like that, and you're like, man, where you been? So that's what we're going to do next. But we got to work on this stand because it's got to dry for a little bit. It's dry now from overnight. So we're going to go ahead and paint this up. And this is going to take a little bit of drying, so we'll switch in between these 2 things. We've got this thing to fix up at some point. We'll probably do the 2 martyrs at the same time. I've got this one, and then this one is MMS. It's all resin, and this is what my stuff used to look like. Definitely got more contrast in the stuff I'm doing now, and this took a hell of a lot longer than the other things I did, because this whole thing is done with layering, and yeah, that's not the way to do that, and to be done with them. And then we have a Martyr 2 to build, which is one of the ugliest. I'm going to give it one of the ugliest German vehicles in existence. Normally, German vehicles tend to not be ugly; they're just wicked looking. And I said German vehicles because definitely not the ugliest vehicle of World War II. Did we talk about that the other day? What do you think the ugliest vehicle of World War II is? Doesn't mean how useful it was, just how ugly. My vote goes for the U.S. duck, that DUKW thing. That thing is ugly and ugly as sin. It has no redeeming, attractive qualities. But ultimately, it's not important, you know. But as a modeler, it is. Who wants to paint an ugly thing? But and there could be an uglier vehicle. That's just the only one that comes to mind. Chocolate brown. That's what we're gonna do. And then U.S. Field Drab. I got 2 U.S. Field Drabs. Interesting. Well, I should finish one of them up, shouldn't I? All right, so we need to put chocolate brown down and let it dry, because this ends up going on pretty heavy. And then we'll start the process with the Flampanzer 3. Apart from insane work levels. That's not good. Department of Defense sinking truck. I think it was pretty successful, wasn't it? Just ugly. Poor thing. Poor thing. There's a lot of vehicles that were never made, actually, that were really attractive, or that didn't go into production, that are really attractive, but ultimately it doesn't really matter, I guess. I'm not one of those that the Sherman's an ugly tank. There's many of, I don't think they are. I think they have a lot of character. Certainly with all the stuff that gets added to them by the folks that are hanging out inside, going for a ride. Let's see if we can get this tall brush out. There we go. And I'm just going to brush this on here. Have you ever watched a Joy Painting with Bob Ross? Don't want to alarm you, but your base has a bad case of acne. Yeah, thank goodness. Yeah, we need that. You know this, but I only switched from the Liquitex one because they wanted to be hippies and didn't want to make the shit no more. So that's the only reason that I switched to it. But I was very happy with it. But honestly, this is better. It dries a little quicker. It's got more grit. My neighbor got a neighbor that's got a big old redneck truck, and it must be in bad shape because he lets it idle for like freaking 20 minutes before he leaves. And if it was a high-pitched vehicle, I wouldn't hear it because my high-pitched hearing is shot, but it's low, so. Luckily, I'm already awake when that goes off. My car is very loud when it starts up, but it's a rice burner. We'll do the edge here. Well, I didn't use the sandpaper on the edge, and it looks just as good. Let's put a little more of this. Just one drop. That should be enough. And then we'll grab this to do the edge, and then we'll let this just kind of percolate. Shouldn't take too long, but it takes longer to dry than most things. Except the Agrax Earthshade. It takes a millennia to dry compared to everything else. Now we still have to do an antenna on this Panzer III at some point, the one we painted. And it is just a toy, a die-cast toy. Maybe they're not meant to be toys, but I call it a toy. All right, we can leave that on there. We're done with that. Let's rinse this out. You know, if I don't do a reach around on this thing, then I've got to put it over here to the right, and it's precariously going to fall down. Right? Extremely right-hand dominant. All right. That's accomplished. So I want to get this thing based today. Flampanzer 3. Now, one thing I need to do is I take these tabs off normally because they're too tight, and I'm going to end up scraping the finish on this. So but of course I spray painted this, so we added some thickness to it. So let's take this off so this thing will move smoother. I guess at some point I should try playing this game, shouldn't I? It's, in case you can't tell, it's not a huge priority for me. Oh, you're going to be difficult. You're going to be difficult. All right. Let's be difficult. Several have sunk with civilians on board due to post-war add-ons for tourist rides. Going to the Philippines for work in 3 weeks, so I'll probably get another dose there. Of COVID? Don't ask for that. I have a tub of the Viejo basing gel, but I haven't gotten to use it yet. Well, this stuff is great. I'm a big fan of their products. There we go. That's all it took. Some aggressive sandpaper. All right. This has the tracks that are a little on the hard side. Let's see how good a fit this is, because I'm fine painting it in two parts as long as this thing doesn't come out and back and bite me when it comes down to gluing it. You know, I grew up building these things, so I really hated 1/72 scale armor. And then I got some decent models. And then I'm like, oh, it's just the Eschi kits that are mismade. And half of the mismade is that this bottom hull piece is one piece. Actually, not even, because you've got a little end piece here that's another one. But this is all one piece. And the sides are each one piece, so you've got to glue them together with here. And hopefully, when you got it in the package, they're not warped, you know, like so. And usually they are. And then you have to strong arm them and get them in place. And in doing so, the hole, instead of being completely like this, ends up being like this a little bit, you know, if you looked at it head on. And that's where you have fit issues. And they are really poorly engineered when it comes to stuff like S model or the UMs. The UMs weren't great. The UMs actually fit together a lot better than their instructions were. The instructions were like Russian type instructions. Here's one picture and lots of arrows going every which way. Enjoy, you know. And what was the other one that was excellent? S model. Oh, and the Plastic Soldier Company stuff. Both of those two really went together really well. You should consider a small live play, letting some of us play on a team against you. I gotta remember how to play the game. I gotta do my homework because I don't want it to look like, this game sucks. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, you know? Marcus Childress, haven't been watching live, catching up on some of your other streams. Good stuff. Do you ever rewatch? I used to rewatch my DVA games, but if I rewatch, then I'm not creating new content, and I sometimes put it. I used to put it on in the car, but I've been doing books, so no, I don't really rewatch. I don't rewatch stuff that's just me, and I do rewatch. I have rewatched games. All right, if I glue this down now, am I going to be able to sneak this underneath here? I think I am. Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and glue this down now. And we are going to need something more than weld cement. As much as I love weld cement, we need some gap filling stuff because you can see this thing is just popping out everywhere it shouldn't be. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scrape the top of this. Let's do this because we have spray paint on this. Hey, however long this takes, it allows the other one to dry. This is old sandpaper. It just like snaps in half. But these are really basic models. The idler wheel should be hollow for the track teeth to go in between. It's solid, you know. Of course, these were probably, they don't have the date on here, but these are probably close to my age. They're certainly from the 70s. I don't know if they're from 71, but they're certainly from the 70s. But hey, I already had them. I got them probably in the early 90s. And let's use what we have. I don't think I can get the sandpaper thing here. That spot. Would I buy them again? Nope. I don't think it touches in the back, but reminds me of when I went to the dentist the other day for a cleaning. I didn't have this much plaque. People laugh, but I fall asleep at the dentist. It's like a spa for me. Okay. All right, we're gonna have to use, I don't usually use super glue for this, but I will this time. And the other goal today is I gotta get a better container for these two epoxy things. They're just falling all over the place. What about the Vallejo surface primer? Why do you use the airbrush version instead to prime your minis? Okay, huh? Let's read that again. Hold on, let's have a drink first. Yes, it's just coffee. I haven't had alcohol in like 2 weeks or something. Unnecessary. Why do I use the airbrush version? I do? I don't think this is the airbrush version. Can you even airbrush this? I would hate to. It's super thick. Yeah, this stuff is actually great because you can brush it on, doesn't leave any brush strokes. If you put too much down, it gets every. Actually, the thing I like the most about it is it spreads really well, almost like enamel that's thinned a little bit. Yeah, I'm not doing an airbrush. I can't airbrush here. I can't make noise, and I can't make that kind of noise. No, I actually spray can. I use a rattle can to get most of the big parts, and then I come in and I'm going to mist stuff. The rattle can is going to get the black spray paint on the places that you're likely to touch with your fingers. So it's the stuff that's going to wear the most. And then all the other spots I get with this stuff. Man, this stuff is stinky. I can't believe people get high on shit like this. This smells horrible. All right, let's put. It smells worse than, stronger than epoxy. We're going to put this on the inside. And then we need to flex this so it fits there and fits there. Okay, we got that. And let's line up the front. And then it's not touching in the middle, of course. All right, my friend, let me get an assist from a Bubba Rand. Oh man, well that one was kind of twisted on itself. I thought I had more of them. Here they are. We're just going to cut this one off when we're done. I don't want it to bend over any of the machine guns. Good. We'll let that sit a little bit. All right, this thing dry yet? No. Okay. Let's put some of this stuff away. We won't need that anymore. We'll put the MIG colors up here. Now I found a place in Tampa you can mail order these MIG colors from, and their shipping is really, really good, price-wise. It's like less than $4. So that's nice. Nice for a change. I tried your plastic putty thing with the wet Q-tip. I didn't have great results. I don't love that stuff. I think I had better results with the White Squadron putty, but I do like that applicator though. It's probably the thing from Vallejo I like the least. But I'll continue using it and see if the results change, but it's strange because when I did 1/35th scale stuff, I didn't have any problem with the putty. But something else from the last century used to work better. I could probably ditch this, the color things. There's not really much of a color change between the new and the old Vallejo colors. Of course, these ones I have are all the original batch I probably bought in the early 2000s. So it's funny that I'm just now getting low on the German gray. I didn't use it much before this. Let's get all this crap out of the way. This can sit here. I'll go ahead and close this thing up. Yeah, this is what happens. I just throw things off to the side when I'm working on things, and then I got a mess on my hands. Extra shim stock. I don't know what I'm going to do as far as the bigger one. Who's this guy? Soviet dude? Soviet commander. Run the vacuum cleaner right now, but folks are sleeping. Okay. That's a lot better. All right. Yeah, we had to, these things are incorrigible. I had to run like a stapler through it. I'm not a fan of these rubber band tracks. Which is funny because a long time ago I preferred them to separate link. I didn't have the patience, but separate link is the way to go. I saw somebody, I think I saw a video of somebody putting them together. I must have, because that's my first go-to before I try to invent something, and they had assembled it in advance. And I'm like, well, I got so much cardboard. I could just assemble it on my cardboard. They're not going to stick to the cardboard. And, yeah. Well, I prefer them already pre-built. But if not, separate link is just fine. It just takes some time. I got a Panzer 3L. I got one of these things to put together. As a matter of fact, is it down here? I'll take a look at it and see how it scales out. Not then. Here it is. I didn't reverse the video today, did I? Mother effer. I hate that. It didn't used to do it. It didn't default. Now it defaults to being backwards. Could you please give me the reference of your brush on primer? This right here. Surface Primer, Vallejo Black. It's available in, it used to be available in white and gray, and it's also available in Dunkelgelb and Rust Brown, I think even Russian Green. I just use the black because I want the, it's available on Amazon. About $20 US for this whole thing. So, we'll try the putty again, but I'm not too worried about it. You know, we're going to end up. Let's see how this thing scales out. Got everything that's in here? Okay. This is the Eschi model. Where's all this? I keep brushing this off and we get more of it. And these, of course, are Altaia. This is an M, this is an L. They're about the same size. You can see that the hatches are smaller here. I don't know if they had smaller hatches or access flaps. I suspect that they didn't. And then here is the Revell, which here it is. It's the whole three-piece thing. I don't know if this is a rehash of this kit or something different. I have a feeling it's a different one. Oh, this thing's really well detailed. It's got the little holes in the top of the roof where the stuff on the inside is attached. Oh, this thing's pretty nice. Decals, as I've heard some folks pronounce. Instructions, lawyerese. I know it's got ones for 3rd Panzer Grenadier Division at Kursk. And the other one is for Unbekannt Einheit. Okay, I don't know what that is. It probably means unidentified unit. Just has a 32 in white. Okay, cool. So, size-wise, what just fell? The decals? I had a plastic bag around here. I'm gonna rebag this in a plastic bag. Just doing this because I need the other thing to dry. It'll be dry in a moment. I think I'm more better for me because you know I'm 35th. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Like somebody said, I know where it is more than anybody else. But every model kit has something wrong with it. Even the most accurate one will say, oh, you know, something's off, always. Yeah, it's pretty close, but it's certainly nicer than the other ones. It's got a nice pattern here on the front there. It's actually very, very nice. Well, we won't do this one in the winter. That's a way to F it up. I haven't done a winter one yet, but I will. And I'm sure it will turn out fine if I just exhibit some patience. Look at that. Perfect. Just happen to have that laying around. So we were stopped dead in our tracks a few months ago when we were working on the armored cars. And we ran into the issue with the antennas, the unsolvable problem with the antennas that were breaking on me because they were brittle. And that's this guy right here from Rodin. And I still have this one to do, which has the same antenna issue. So a couple days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, I went ahead and ordered the Plastic Soldier Company set of 3. So those of you guys that are fans of 8-wheeled armored cars, Nordic, I like them too. There's going to be more of those coming. But I'm going to use the antennas from that one for this one and for this one. So we're going to have a shit ton of these things. We'll end up having 6 all told. Because I've got this one to do, and the 231 that's in the case. It's a crummy model. But then we've got 3 other ones coming, so. And I may do this one for Africa. We will see. We will see. This one has decals decals that says Schultz on it. And it's a Luftwaffe vehicle. It's a WL vehicle. So they named a armored car after Sergeant Schultz. He knows nothing. Okay, so we are going to go back to this. It was not my intention to break off and start working on other stuff. I don't like doing shit. I don't like it when other people do stuff like that. All right. Just dry yet? Ish. A car sees nothing. That's right. An observation vehicle that sees nothing. All right, let's... These are just little hair ties from my daughter. I commandeered them. All right, now we have stuff down here that didn't get the black. Let's show you how the black works. You want to know how it works, so let me show you why I mean it's so awesome. But it is strange in that it has some polyurethane to it, which makes it kind of a pain to clean. But it applies magically. And it's expensive, but it goes a long way. So hopefully you're still on here, Johan. It's extremely watery. Or it appears to be extremely watery. It's watery and thick at the same time. It's a weird combination. Let's find us a spot where there's nothing on it, like right here. That's plenty, just 3 drops. And it just goes on. Real smooth. Especially good if you're like trying to get in road wheels or something like that. Something where, you know, if you use paint, you paint it and there's like, ends up being like bubbles that are fine. Then when they pop, you find that there's no paint there. This does that a lot less. And it's because of the properties of this material. It almost like doesn't, it's not bubble friendly. Bubble friendly. Let's just come up with new terms as we come along with them. I know that Vallejo primer actually shrinks when it dries. I did not know that. Is that a good thing? Or that's just a thing? I don't know that it's that durable. Did I say that? Yeah, I said that. I don't know that it's that durable, but I think it works for its intended purpose. I used to prime in a paint called Model Master Acryl Black. So it was acrylic paint, but it was relatively tough. And then they stopped making it. So then I went to Model Master Black Enamel. And then they stopped carrying that here. So then I'm like, well, I gotta find something else. Because this is a pain in the butt. That I'm having to reinvent the wheel multiple times. Because I won't switch to what I'm using unless I have a good reason. And the reason I've had recently is they just stopped making the material that I use. But I did not know that about the mystery of the shrinking Vallejo primer. I wish it covered better on, like, I've got to use spray paint because, like, if I took this and I just decided to brush it on, I would end up having to give it 3 coats. And I don't have time for that. I'd rather spray, let it dry, and then get this in the other places. Just a thing. It's just a thing, but it can be noticed. The primer is durable, but sometimes needs 2 coats. That material stoppage led you to a better product, so look at the bright side. That's true. It was a better product. But I was not disloyal. I did not jump ship for no reason. I'm loyal to my products. Those guys it was not a sustainable material. Whatever. All right, while that dries now, let's do this U.S. Field Drab. How long have you had that ear infection? And what's that feel like? I can't deal with a headache. I can't think, I can't read, and now what happens is I can't find a place to sit where my head isn't throbbing. I used to remember when I was a kid, you take headache medicine and you go lay down, right? Now you lay down and it's like dun-gun, 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 and you're like, okay, we gotta shift, because it just becomes more and more painful. And what I've noticed is I'll sometimes wake up with a headache and I have to get out of bed because it hurts more being in bed than standing up. It's just adding more pressure. And I don't remember that being the case before, but that's what I can't handle is a headache. I'm a sissy about it too. Because there's no way to get away from it. And there's things worse than that, but that's just the things that I've experienced, the thing that's the most painful for me. Uh-oh. Covers better with airbrush, but that's an avenue I don't want to go down. Nope. I was using a giant tub of playground sand I got at Home Depot, but going forward I will be basing any armies of Vallejo pumice. I will never need sand as I have a lifetime supply. Can use it in terrain building and basing miniatures for armies based on that method unless I decide to rebase. Well, it's been a week that I've had it. It feels like my ear is very congested and clogged up and can barely hear, and then it throbs like a drum or just lingering hurt. Antibiotics they gave me are not strong enough. I used to be given this stuff as a kid and I built up an immunity to it, but they didn't listen. Listen. So it's true, I guess, what they say, that you got to go to the doctor to get antibiotics because otherwise you'll self-medicate and become immune to them. I hate going to the regular doctor. It's a pain in the ass. They're not timely. You're there with other sick people. I usually go I'll make an appointment, it's the first one. That way it can't be backed up too much. But I've been to the regular doctor before. It's like your appointment is like at 2:30. It's been 4:30 and they still haven't seated me. Maybe it's just that it just seems like all practices are that way. Everything just gets congested towards the end. Specialists aren't a problem. I go to the dermatologist, they're right on time. I guess I only go to two: the doctor, the dermatologist, and the dentist. I go to the dentist more than any of the other ones. That one's actually fun going to. Okay, well, that looks nice. Impossible antibiotics unless you go to the doctor. I think in my case when I call them, oh, you can get them on eBay. I bet. The best thing I found out of going to the doctor is just make an appointment on your phone. Just do it virtual. Because usually if I have to go to the doctor, I'm like, dude, I got to get whatever. I need it now. Well, we don't have an appointment for like 3 days. Like, no, I need it now. I'll take a televisit. Take my copay, which costs the same. They probably love that. They get to make like a copay in between. I get charged whatever, $35, and the insurance gets charged $400. I don't know that it's $400, but it's probably at least $200. But I don't go unless I have to. Okay, it should fit on that one as well. Not that it's for that one, but all right. One of my least favorite things to do coming up. That's cutting this out, but the alternative is worse. So I learned to live with it. The alternative is just gluing this in place first, and I want to go down there. Of course, we can't really do this until I seal this, and I can't seal it until there's daylight. So maybe I'm just jumping the gun a little bit here. Oh, and this is fresh. This is the best time to do it, when this thing is new. Like pizza dough. This has only been sitting for 6 hours or so, something like that. 7 hours. Okay, let's go to about there. Your copay is 0, so not bad having to go. You know what's 0 copay on me? This medicine I take. And it's funny because I pay insurance, so it's not like I'm not paying anything towards it. But that reminds me, I need to take it so I don't turn into a leper. The copay normally for a month's supply, like the normal price, if you want to buy it, it's like $1,100. Well, it's not life-threatening, so I just wouldn't take it, So even though I don't go to the doctor, I certainly use my insurance for stuff. It's mainly that. I said, everybody's got something. That's what I got blessed with. Hey, at least it's not something terminal. Okay, let's see how close we got. No, we need more width. Let's just go not much more, and it's not even noticeable on the inside. Thank you, Demo. Why did you say the primer doesn't last? Is the paint going to peel off after? I've never had the paint peel off afterwards, but I have primered something and you could almost scratch it and it comes off. I don't know. I never had a problem with it. It just doesn't seem like it's like an enamel coating or anything. I don't know if that makes any sense, but no. No, it's actually pretty thick there. Maybe it's just a one. Oh, this might be the spray paint on it, though. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it was very long lasting. But I usually use it just to get a black coat on there. So I swear by it. I swear by it. Is that the same as it makes me cuss? I think that's about. I think this is just, man, this thing is heavy. Heavy metal. Let's go a little bit closer to the edge. I wish there was a little bit more meat around this stand, but I want all my Panzer III stuff to be consistent in width. Just because. Probably don't have a good reason to do it. I've always done it. Okay, we can epoxy this in place now. And that should become a lot easier now that. Oh, I can't do that. No, I gotta spray that. I gotta give that a sealant. And before I do that, I'm actually going to, let's go ahead and give it the dull coat, a super dull coat on those numbers. Because there always seems to be a tiny little bit of shine. And it's mostly because the decal is shiny. And this fixes it right up. I never did put a number on there, but I did add that gloss on there, so. This stuff works great. This is flatter than anything. There does have one problem, and that is as it dries, it'll actually, some of it will dry on here and will actually become like little white pieces. And you got to be careful that you're not applying that to the model. Everything has a downside to it. Just kind of have to know what could happen so you can kind of prevent it. This is the stuff I brush on. This is the same stuff I brush on my figures. Yeah, we're gonna do some 20 mil figures at some point. I got all kinds of Soviets and Germans that actually all kinds of stuff. But I'm probably gonna paint some Soviets first because I got more Germans that I like than the Soviets. I got a lot of Soviets that are FAA figures, and Really dislike them. Yeah, that's totally flat now. Kind of see doing its magic. Okay. Flampanzer 3. All right, we need to base this with the yellow first. And then when that's dry, we will add Agrax Earthshade. And then that's going to have to dry for a while. Now, I don't know what we'll do in between. We'll come up with something. I almost hate repainting the trucks that I have. We'll take a look at that in a little while. Let's get, where did she go? Right here. Yeah, the problem with a spray primer is this. I don't have an airbrush. So using a rattle can, in order to get the black in the crevices, you end up putting so much on the top that it covers over all the detail. So that doesn't work. So I just lightly spray. It's going to get all the places where you handle the most. And the spray paint is garbage now. It used to be so much better. Now the tip clogs. It's just, things aren't like they used to be made. And I used to use Model Master Black, and Model Master is not available anymore, at least in this area. So I've had to use Krylon, which is honestly garbage as far as quality. And it sputters, and you got to just be careful with it. So I go really light with it because I don't want to have to just use the back side of this. I don't want to have to redo it. But anytime I spray something, I go very, very light with it. Okay, time to make a mess. This is the part that it looks like, what are you doing? Yep. Looks like I'm screwing this up royally, doesn't it? And again, this would probably look a little different if I had primed this in white, or do that zenithal thing, but I don't have time for all that. Maybe at some point in the future, I may get an airbrush, but I'm not really interested in doing that right now. Problem with doing an airbrush, I can already tell you what the problem is going to be. I'm going to end up doing more than one vehicle at one time, and I honestly get overwhelmed mentally if I'm like, okay, prime these 20. Okay, what do I do? It's too assembly line for me. I'm a more work on one thing at a time kind of person. Because you're not going to want to clean your airbrush just for airbrushing one thing, you know. Didn't Rust-Oleum buy a Model Master spray line and haven't reinstituted? What I heard is, yes, Rust-Oleum bought testers and they discontinued the Acro line and they cut a bunch of stuff out. I mean, the Acro stuff was good, and so was the but you know, the Acro stuff was kind of like this Vallejo primer in that it's elastic. If you go and try to pull some of this old stuff out, let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can do this, or it might be on the back side. And that's wet. All right, here we go. You should be able to get the gist from this. This is the Vallejo primer. And it's very elasticy. And the Acryl, Model Master Acryl was that way. You'd close up your thing and you're like, what is this rubber stuff in it? But I think that's kind of what made it durable. But they stopped discontinuing that. Of course, you couldn't finish a whole bottle of that stuff. I'd always like come back and end up wasting the bottom third. But I liked the product. I thought it was a good product. But they discontinued it. I think they discontinued all the Model Master stuff. But that was like the best thing. But yeah, Rust-Oleum came and bought it. That's what I heard. I'm telling you, the more businesses consolidate, and the more you take 20 businesses that turn into 4, they discontinue shit, and the consumer has less options. And that's happened so much over the last 20 years on every front. And it makes me angry. It makes me angry that the consumer's getting bent. Because it doesn't matter if you work for that company or not, you're still a consumer. So you're getting bent no matter what you do. And it's just unfortunate. And sometimes the better products aren't made anymore. I remember when I was growing up, the worst paint on the market that we had in our area was Pactra. They had those little small Testors bottles, which are garbage. You can still go into like Joann's or something, and they sell that in the hobby section. Like, those bottled paints are just garbage. And the Pactra ones were worse because it was worse quality paint, and it was in this container that was, like those little glass ones, but it had like a pattern in it. So it had like recesses and stuff where you couldn't get in there and mix the colors out. I mean, I might be able to get the Testors things to work now with the knowledge that I have of being able to thin it. But, no kid that's 10 years old is going to do anything worth a damn with that stuff. It's just really user unfriendly. You remember back in the mid-90s when I started painting, you used to use Testors enamel paint. You can get some great results with Testors enamels. Yeah, because they're thinned down, the good ones. The Viejo spray can paint is working for me on metal like Russian uniform, which is a drab green. Viejo bottle primer doesn't work for me on metal minis. I've never seen the Viejo spray, or they don't have it in stores around here. Who am I kidding? They don't have stores around here. They don't have hobby stores. Everything's online, unless you got something like Hobby Lobby, which it's limited in use of the things that they carry, and you always get like a hankering or you need something on a Sunday and they're closed. I wouldn't even know what to thin this polyurethane primer with to airbrush it. It just behaves very strangely. But I mean, it flows great. It flows really, really good. That's actually what sold me on it. That's why I'm going to keep buying it, because it gets in all those nooks and crannies. I hope the Flampanzer 3s didn't have an escape hatch, because these don't have it. Well, this is not an IPNS model, so I won't be adding it onto them. I saw a guy did a review. Oh, I know who it was. It was the Portuguese guy that I follow. He did on his Africa Corps one. He bought the Armor Fast Panzer 3G model, and it doesn't have the escape hatch on the side. But I don't think I'll be buying any Armor Fast stuff. There's too much fast, not enough armor on it. It's missing a lot of really key details on a lot of the stuff, and I really wanted to pick up their Panzer 4D and detail it up, but it's going to need too much work, and it's going to look way too plain compared to all this other stuff. So I think the way forward on a Panzer 3 or a Panzer 4D or a Panzer 4E is the Mirage kits from Poland. I think that's the route I'm going to go to when we get there. Well, those are like $25 a piece, so I'm not in a hurry to buy those. I got plenty of stuff to work on, and I don't need to build them unless I'm getting ready for a certain scenario. So right now we're just building stuff. Now the Flampanzer's for the 6th, I forget if it's the 6th or the 11th Panzer Division at Kursk, had side skirts on them. So I have the side skirts from this. I may actually put the side skirts on this afterwards if I decide to model it on that. But I'm going to attempt to do the whole front of it kind of charred. I saw a model that somebody did. It might have been a 1/35th scale model. Just like I don't do 1/35th scale models anymore. I don't do 28 millimeter, but I use those larger scales as inspiration for painting either 1/72 or 20 mil. They're good for ideas and stuff. I used to do 1/35th scale models. I probably will never do one again. I've never done 28s, and I'll probably never do a 28. I can't be into everything. Jeez. Should know that by now. Notice you need to do 2 coats to make sure you get the entire miniature in priming metals. Windex. What's Windex? What does Windex do? Or Glass Plus. Is it a special? I got that stuff down here. A special thing that's unique to Windex only. This is a lot better than just having to paint the whole thing by hand and don't miss any spots just to end up covering it all over again. I'm pretty happy with this method. The spray paint left almost like little bubbles when I sprayed it, and I went light. I know it's probably only I can see them, but I shouldn't have pointed them out. Doesn't matter. I like being transparent. Maybe I'll do something, make a mistake, and keep you guys from making one, or I don't know. We're going to keep making mistakes, unfortunately. You don't know how to fix them if you don't make them. This painting of the yellow is actually going a little bit better today than yesterday. But I'm doing them back to back, so that helps. Yes, I know, I'm hungry again. Story of my life. I'm hungry, damn it. Well, hand painting the German crosses has really worked well for me. I don't have to worry about trying to get the right size cross, which has been a lot more trouble than it should be. No point in painting over the muffler. We're just gonna rustify that. All right, well, that's done. Now this turret, I think at one point was, I think glued open and broken or something like that. So it's kind of boogered up a little bit. The turret hatch. That's just something I'm going to have to live with, unfortunately. But yeah, this pretty amazing. It actually turns out this well, considering how shitty this is looking at this stage. But this is just putting a base color down that we can build upon. Does Miracles on Glass as a glass cleaner. Cut into airbrush mix. Prevents to dry is the best property. Flow improver works too. I made this, that's how I came with the flow improver and the airbrush thinner and the glass plus, is I watched a video that a guy did on YouTube because I have an airbrush. I bought, a guy talked me into buying an $80 one. And yes, it's a POS, but that's where I made my little mats from. And I mainly wanted to see if it was a $80 investment to see if I really needed to buy an expensive one before I spend $700 on getting the tank and everything and realize it's something I don't really need. And I had made this liquid that this guy called in his video Jesus juice, and basically made his own thinner because it's a lot cheaper and involved whatever the water is called, the water that's already evaporated. I can't think of it right now, but the one without minerals. So it involved that and a little bit of Windex and some flow improver and like one other thing. And I made it and used it, but the airbrush just would clog. The biggest problem with the airbrush, it was a cheap airbrush and it was not gravity fed. It was suction fed, and you'd get it going well, and then it would just clog. And then you would like try to unclog it. It wasn't clogging, it just wasn't sucking up. And then by the time I fixed it, it would start working again, and it would not suck it up again. And it was just a problem. It was just problems I don't have with painting here. And although I did it did get me to paint those terrain mats. It wasn't very detail-oriented airbrush, but the main thing is it just wasn't. It was a compressor and an airbrush for like $80 from Harbor Freight, and this guy had gotten one, and I'm like, okay, well I can waste $80, and I think I got my money's worth out of it, but I swore I wasn't going to use it again because it was just frustrating. But it was a suction-fed airbrush. I will never get another suction-fed airbrush, because you can't just like drop like a little bit of water in there. You got to put enough liquid in there to get to the suction thing and hope to God it works. And I noticed that just the other day that they had one for $100 at Harbor Freight, and it was not gravity fed. But I don't think I'm going to fall for it. I don't. I just don't enjoy doing this in the garage. It's just too damn hot. When I'm doing something hot, I have to plan it. Like, all right, let me do it after work where I'm already nasty and I'm going to have to take a shower. I already come back from work or whatever. Like I said, I'm the anti-gamer. I don't work on this shit dirty. I come home and shower and work on this stuff clean. But it was mainly it was a suction issue more than anything else. It'd start off great, and all of a sudden it just would stop, and I have to take the thing apart. Paint was getting in places that I didn't want it to. It's just frustration causing. And I'm not used to my hobby causing me frustration. It defeats the purpose of doing the hobby, for my case. It's relaxation, not frustration for me. We're going to not go to the end more than normal because this is a flamethrower tank. And this game is an actual scale, so the freaking flamethrower goes out like, 2 feet away. So you just got to get your tank within 2 feet and start broiling people. But in my opinion, it's the worst flamethrower tank of all. Because at least the T-34, you still keep the 76mm gun armament. You just replaces the whole machine gun. This one, you lose the 50mm gun. That is your flamethrower. Now, it might actually have a better range than the other ones, and that might be because of and I think it does, because, it's mounted higher. But, even the Shermans had a 75mm gun. They kept the 75. The Zippos, I think that's a much better design. Okay, I think that's good enough for the time being. So this is the starting point. We add the Agrax Earthshade. We'll let that sit a little bit. Airbrush setups today don't cost that much. You can get a real nice setup for probably $200 to $300. I have a gravity-fed cheap airbrush and it works fine most of the time. Most of the time. Master Series Amazon. Last time I broiled people with a Flammpanzer was on the Ostfront. Rolled a platoon up and fried a bunch of Soviets. What about the Sherman flamethrower in the Pacific? I don't know. The Pacific just seems too... It just doesn't interest me. It's really lopsided too, from a gaming standpoint. That's not to poo-poo some veterans or anything that they had a cakewalk. They didn't. I'm just talking about if you get people to play Japanese, the other guys freaking have more artillery. They have freaking naval support. Not everywhere, but I'm just talking about, on a normal island. They got everything going for them. They got all the cool bells and whistles, and you're sitting around with nothing, I don't think that makes a very fun game. If I was going to do Pacific, I'd do stuff like Guadalcanal or something like that, or do Burma or the Kokoda Trail or something like that. But I have a Japanese squad or so, and I have a cute little Hago to paint, but I just don't have a whole lot of interest in that. I can't be into everything, so that's what I'm the least interested in, is the Pacific. So, if we're going to do Americans, we'll do them in either North Africa, Italy, or Normandy. I'm perfectly fine with any of those. Got to kind of limit what you're interested in. I'm not particularly interested in paratroopers either, because paratroopers, I like combined arms, at least the chances of combined arms. Paratroopers did eventually get, tanks that would come and meet them, but a lot of their stuff doesn't involve tanks, and it's overdone, It's overdone. Okay, I think I can probably go ahead and Agrax Earthshade this thing, because this thing's going to need to percolate for a while. And I mean a couple hours, probably. And then we'll have to move on to something else. Actually, we're going to take a potty break. Then we'll move on to something else. What time is it? 7? Yeah. So we're just going to go over this lightly. Adds a little bit of modulation. There's a term that didn't exist in the early 90s when I was doing tanks. 1/35th scale stuff. I have an old article that somebody gave me, actually an old magazine from I think 1989, and there was a modeler at the time in it that did some incredible models. But now there's all kinds of people that even surpass what this guy was doing. This guy's name was Tony Greenland, I think his last name was Greenland. He was definitely Tony. Real easy to remember that one for me. But he only did German tanks, and I don't know why people just do one side or the other. I think your Germans need to fight somebody, but his stuff was amazing. I found that article the other day, or I found that magazine the other day, and I was like, okay, this is nice, but man, there's a lot more wizards now. The internet gives everybody a voice, so there's some really talented people. Like I said, Night Shift and Plasmo stick in my mind. There could be other folks out there that do 1/35th scale stuff. I'm sure they are, that I would like if I see them, but I don't really travel in those circles. I just don't see a point in working on a model and then not doing anything with it. I've done that before, and these at least have a chance of going out on the battlefield and doing their thing. It's a moving diorama, so to speak. So now I was trying to think how many 1/35th scale models I had built, and I guess it was quite a few of them. But as with anything else during that time period, I'd buy 10 and finish one, so I had a lot of unfinished stuff. But I did have what just cracked? Something just moved on me. No. These models are very, very brittle. This plastic's gotten very, very brittle. I had a Polish tank. I had a 7 TP and a T60. That was an unusual one. Finished. I wanted to build the stuff that was kind of unusual that you wouldn't see all the time. I had a Panther, but I made it a D. Remember having to buy a resin pieces. It was like freaking $50 or something like that for the different turret and the different road wheels. And take the Tamiya Panther, which is an A model, and then take this off, and let's close that before we have a problem. Now, if I don't let this yellow sit long enough, when I come over this, I end up scraping some of this yellow off, which isn't a big deal, because I'm gonna come back and add more of it. But I think this is, we still have the turret to do. I mean, more than that. Let's see what we got here. The best parts of the Pacific to War game is Guadalcanal. Japanese versus British. I actually love playing paratroopers. Going to be lingering here. My ears starting to calm down enough to lay your head down. Really hate ear infections. Kind of amusing. For me as a model builder, I am drawn more to the German equipment when it comes to tanks and vehicles. I love British planes and their North Africa tanks. I wouldn't mind trying some Italian North Africa tanks. There are a couple of Russian planes and tanks I'd like to build too. Yeah, the German stuff looks wicked. And it was in a lot of action. There was a lot of different paint schemes, and there's a lot of backstory between all the way the units have their markings and stuff like that. So there's a lot to like, and they make a lot of this stuff. I like the British North Africa stuff a lot. I think it's pretty. That's what I've always liked about the North Africas. I think both sides are very interesting. There's appeal a lot on both sides. I mean, the British tanks in North Africa look a lot more interesting than the British tanks in Northwest Europe when they're all, just green. It's a different shade of green than Americans, but I'm not putting white stars on my British vehicles. It just doesn't look right. It just seems wrong. Okay, that's where we're leaving it at. We specifically did not put any on the barrel on the end. Doesn't need to have that. We're going to rinse this out, go to the potty, be right back. Work on something else because we can't work on this and we can't seal this yet. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got some parameters on what I got to work on next, or at least work on this moment because I can prime something paint something that's primed, but I can't prime something on top of bare plastic. So if you take something like, here's just a container that I have here of some of my things that are put together. You know, I can't go and like work on this Britannia Panther. Not that I was going to, because I don't have a solution really for the bases, but if I work on this Britannia Panther, it's just bare resin. The Vallejo primer is not, brush on primer is not going to work. I have to go take this and give it a rattle can treatment first. So, you know, I can't do something like that. I could do something like work on this thing. That's a SDK of Z251, and look how rough this thing's got a bad case of something, but that, and I'd want to take a before picture too. We'll be able to fix this thing up. 251D. I like the earlier half tracks better. I'm not a fan of the D half track with the flat back. And here's another one. I don't know who the hell made this one. But, all right, I might as well show you the German half tracks I have to do. I think I got 5. Here's the Eschi one with those damn rivets. These, of course, will end up being yellow. That one's going to be gray. And then this is the Fujimi one, which was done. This is how I did it. It looks okay, but it looks like shit compared to the stuff I do now. So we're going to repaint this thing. And then here's the Matchbox one, which is 176. This is actually a B. And I don't know where the hell the machine gun is. We'll have to get another machine gun and put it up there. That's the German half tracks I have. None of them are, that are actual models, because I've got like 3 or 4 of the Altaia ones that are pre-built, and they're all Ds. But did this thing break? All right, so I could repaint this thing. I just don't want to get in the half track. It's everybody's favorite armored car. Maybe not everybody's. A Puma. Even though it's got a really weird muzzle brake. Look at that muzzle brake. It's obviously wrong. This will get painted. Oh, it's an SS unit. Screw those guys. Not making it SS. Allied tanks of late war are just ugly. I agree. I don't like comets. Not your favorite armored car. I know. You like the 8-wheel one. The 8-rad, the 231s. Let's see what's in this box. Here's those 251s I got. These are already pre-built. This one's actually the running gear fell off of it. Yeah, glue that back on there. I got 3 of these. They'll get repainted. Make them look different. So what's that? 8 German half tracks? That's more German half tracks than they had. Here is a pre-built Opel Blitz. I'll repaint that as well. It actually has a nice bed on it. And 1, 2 Malteers. You know, the thing is like, I don't really mind how these look, but they got to be weathered. So if I'm going to weather them, I might as well repaint them, because it's going to look like shit re-weathering them over this. Does this cab come off? Let's see. We'll say no. An ambulance. I picked this thing up on a whim. And a Horch staff car. And then this poor Airfix 222 was just is just a poor example of this vehicle. I don't know that I'm going to do anything with it. Oh, yeah, I do have all the wheels. Maybe I will do something with it. But it's really not worth my effort. Yeah, we're going to need to do some major epoxying on that. And what else is in here? Now, here's one I was going to use. I know it's out of scale. This is actually a 1/87th, because this would be like a good objective for like if you're trying to knock this thing out. Like a squad of guys have to go take it out or something like that. But look how small it is compared to the 1/72nd scale one. Well, now I got too much shit here. So this is plenty usable until you put it next to the real one, and it just dwarfs it. But I still think this thing is usable in a scenario game, you know? Just like these Soviet T-28s are also 1/87th. I'm probably going to end up painting them and using them. I already have them, so. Old Roco mini tanks. I picked that up a long time ago. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Throw it away or try to make the best of it? Let's try to make the best of it. Try to make the best of it. We're not building a diorama that everything has to be exactly in scale. If I would go, I wouldn't buy it now. But I already have it. Here's something you'll find interesting. Here's the rest of these Altaias. Like this one. I've got this one. And I got this one to do. These are all the same. None of them will be for North Africa. I'm not interested in doing that late war North Africa stuff. But along with them, we have, I think this is a Matchbox Panther. And it's 1/76. It is really basic, but I think we can doctor this thing up and make it look okay. It's a G. It's a late G. It's a late G because it's got the chin armor, and it does not have the pop vision hatch like the A's do and the D's do. And it's 1/76. It's definitely on the small side, but it'll work fine. This is the old kit that I have from BP Cast of a Panther. I don't know what happened to the barrel. But let me take a look at it. This thing's rough as shit. It's got all kinds of bubbles in places it shouldn't have. It looks like it's the right shape and everything, and it's got extra jerry cans and stuff on there. So there's things about it definitely to like, but I don't think it's worth my effort even messing with this thing. But here's what I thought you were going to find interesting. I picked this up. This came pre-painted like this. And it's actually a remote control something or another. It doesn't work because I don't have the remote for it. But look at the size of this Tiger. And I think it actually might be, I haven't scaled it, but it looks like the right proportion compared to the Panzer III. I may not repaint this thing. It looks like it needs a cleaning, but you know, this is some kind of a antenna or something or another. But don't look at this front part, but look at the back. It actually has pretty good weathering on it already. I might just leave this thing alone. So it looks a hell of a lot bigger than the Cromwell model 76 scale Tiger. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. 49 megahertz. Does the turret come off? It does. Look, it's got like some radio control unit. It's aliens! It looks pretty decent. I'm probably going to just leave it alone, honestly. Yeah, now I like the color of this one. How does this color of the yellow compare to it? This might be like the North Africa color. I don't know. I'm happy with the way these yellow ones turned out. They're a little bit more pale than I would have thought. But yeah, so we got those die-cast ones to do. This old Panther. Look at diminutive. I have this stuff. I might as well use it. What else do we got? The last two boxes are T-34 Hell. There's tons of T-34s. Smorgasbord of stuff. And Armor Fast Sherman that somehow I lost the gun mantlet. There's no gun mantlet on there, so I think I'm going to probably drape something over it. That's the only reason I didn't get this thing built. Couple of Altaia pre-made half-tracks. I guess my American half-tracks are somewhere else. I've got 4 or 5 of them. The old Corgis. This is actually has a lot of really good detail, but we'll have to repaint this thing. A couple of mortar half-tracks. I don't know that I need 2 of them. One of them is enough, but I have them. These are pretty nicely detailed models, honestly. I actually had to buy a screwdriver that had a triangular bit on it so I could take these things apart. Have a Sherman Crab from Britannia, and I do have a little back headlight thing here, which is like the lane markers with the little flails. This is a Britannia Firefly that was painted at one point, and this thing took, I remember, forever to paint it, and it's nowhere near as good as the stuff that I'm putting out now. But look, I even had to attempted to paint the little markings on them, although they're smaller than they should be, but we'll end up repainting this thing at some point. But I ordered the Humbrol paint, and the color's right. It's so long ago that the Humbrol, the little tin died. It was actually an enamel paint that I used for this, so I'm sure there's a Vallejo equivalent or something like that. This is a Matchbox Dinky M4A376, which is huge shape. Almost looks like a jumbo. It's not. Here's the Matchbox Firefly 1. And I don't remember what the name of the company is. These things sucked. These are really rough resin casting. I don't know what the hell these things are. I can't remember what the name of it is, but this is an M4A4. Never did anything with it. It's pretty sloppy. Probably not worth my time messing with it. And an Archer by BP Cast. Has some crews I can convert in. I was disappointed that it doesn't look like the Archers were used in Market Garden. So, and this is a couple of Eschi T-34s that I'm missing one of the tracks, so I can't really complete them. But the T-34s with the cupola hatch on them. Anyhow. Well, I think I took so long talking about it, I can work on the next thing that tried. I don't know that I could have worked on any of this stuff. I don't have It needs to be spray painted to get to the starting point. Oh, let's not put that away. Pay attention. Oh, and use the old Airfix Pack 40. I have 2 of them. It came with the trucks. And a Kubelvog. I don't know who the hell this one's from. I want to say this is the Fujimi one. And a Pack 38, which looks bigger than a Pack 40 because it's 20 millimeter instead of being 76th. And there's a Panzerjäger 1. And here's another Pack 40. It's in pieces from Eshi. Just stuff that I got when I was a kid, never did anything with it. I think I'm leaning towards not putting the guns on a base. Just having them like this, and that way you can put the figures around them. I don't know. Still, jury's still out. Gonna try out Mickey Mouse camouflage with my Brits. If I got any late 44 ones, yes, because I actually like how that looks a lot. I like what the Brits do to U.S. equipment. They put better paint schemes on it. Although I like the 2nd Armored Division Shermans that they put the black and all the drag on. I think it looks pretty sweet. I like Mickey Mouse, especially on the trucks. But I only have 4 British infantrymen. I got plenty more of them to paint, I just haven't. Okay, this should be dry enough to go to the next stage, which is to go back. Remember, we're going to end up with something that looks like this. It doesn't look like it. Actually, we could probably get rid of this right now. This is that image, so let's... There we go. All right, let's go back and put Igrax Earthshade. We are done with you. Honestly, I like the Brits better when they fought alone. And they start serving with Americans, and they make them do stupid shit like put white stars in their vehicles and stuff like that. Not a fan. Not a fan of that. The only thing I don't like about this paint is it's very watery. So we're just going to go over this stuff again, which means it's really thin. But it actually has good pigmentation considering how watery it is. It covers pretty well. It's more of like it's a surprise. It was more of a surprise when I first used it. It's not what I expected, but now I've done a couple of vehicles with it, and it's actually okay. Which American tank in British service in North Africa do you like the most? Easily the Honey. Easily. Honeys are awesome. And the Brits made it look good. Honey's not, I mean, a Stewart's not a particularly ugly vehicle to begin with. But man, Honey's encounter scheme, just really cool looking tanks. Definitely like them. Actually, they all look good in North Africa because the Grants look good. I think the Shermans with the camouflage that they used at Alamein with the big swaths of like the brown, they look good too. but definitely the honey. First of all, they used them earlier than any of the other ones, so that means they're more useful for a longer period of time. Yeah, I like me some honeys. So Plastic Soldier Company honeys are definitely on the horizon at some point. But they're not in that scenario book I got for North Africa, so they're not a priority. North Africa's not really a priority at this point. I know I'm eventually going to get around to it. I want to see what I do with the with with my painting style and British vehicles. I'm looking forward to doing it. It's just not. I don't own them right now. I don't. You can see I don't need to. I really don't need to buy any stuff. I need to use the stuff I have. Have fun with that. So after this, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Maybe that Frankenpanzer Panzer IV from Eschi. Do it another a cursed Panzer IV. I don't know. Maybe some more T-34s. I certainly have enough of them to do. Definitely a honey fan. The North Africa vehicle I like the least is the Valentine. I just don't like them. They're small, they're cramped. They're not as well armored as the Matildas. They're faster, but that isn't saying anything. That's like saying a JS2 has a better turret traverse than a KV2. Well, it does, but it's still slow as shit. It doesn't mean I won't have any Valentines. I'm just saying, if I've got to pick things I like and things I don't like, I'm not a Valentine fan. Barnes White. Sherman's brand camouflage look good. Honeys look great, and the camouflage as well. Yeah, the Sherman's with that big like swath on the side looks good. All right, man. I hope you feel better. Get you some sleep. I may not do the front of this all charred and stuff. Sometimes less is more. But the barrel end, there certainly will be. You don't have to make your vehicles look like they're veterans of many battles and they've never been fixed up. At some point, these didn't look totally nasty. Although this thing's pretty dirty looking. We don't want them looking completely thin, but completely clean, but we also don't want them being held together by rust. Or I don't want to. You might want to, but I said I'm not really a fan of the chipping and stuff. It's a little too over the top for me. And it's just my excuse to not end up spending a month working on one vehicle. We got too many vehicles that I want to do to spend that kind of time on them. I spend more time on them than most people anyways. But this Panzer III worked on yesterday was 4 hours, something like that. One vehicle. Not that it was boring. It was great. Look even better when we end up sealing it and stuff. I don't know about camouflage. I may just not add any camouflage to this one. I've seen lots of photos of these guys in Italy with no camouflage illustrations. These smoke dischargers on the side of this turret are definitely on the diminutive side. And I think that makes a vehicle look a lot better, is having the smoke dischargers up here on the turret. I like that look. But they're just cast on onto the turret in this model. So they don't have a whole lot of detail. They don't stand out too much. So grab the tank by the barrel has the added thing that if there's any paint on there, you'll end up rubbing it off. And if there's one tank that needs to have a charred black barrel, it's a flame tank, that's for sure. So, extra bonus. That was kind of a unexpected thing that just kind of happened. Let's see what this thing's starting to look like. Let me stand farther away from this thing so I can see it. Yeah, got lots of contrast. And not exactly the same model. For starters, this is an L and that's an M, but they're cousins for sure. I'm going to leave some of that dark brown in the front, like it's charred a little bit. And I think we're done with this. Let's add a little bit of this, like we did last time, and a little bit of the next color up, which happens to be not that one. I actually don't have much of a use for this color. This is the Dunkelgelb Shine, and it's almost like white. I don't really have much of a use for that, but it came in the 3 set. This one's light enough as it is, the highlight. Put some of it up over here. I can see if you're airbrushing, you like these colors because you can tell they're already thin to the point where you would airbrush them, but they're pretty thin as far as I'm concerned for what I use them for. But they work. They're just not my preference. I would have wanted them to be. Get all these edges where it's going to catch the light. So this has a little bit less of the Dunkelgelb on it, and just enough highlight to, so this area is naturally going to be darker than some of the other areas on purpose. It's got front row tickets to the barbecue. Soviet barbecue. Now they used them at Kursk, and then I understand most of them got moved to Italy. The other unit that stayed in Russia and used them, I want to say, is 4th Panzer Division. But they only made like 100 of these. So the rest of them ended up going to Italy. Or so I read. And these were used in the 8th Platoon. And I forget the 6th or the 11th Panzer Division, one of those. So this is going to have an 800 series number on it. And it's going to be really difficult to get it up here before, in front of the smoke dischargers. Well, we'll see what we do that. We may have to just give it a number that's kind of short, like only 2 digits or something like that. Yeah, that's good right there. Just like that. Let's take a look at this. Man, it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Let's get a little bit back here on the... Ended up doing a fair amount of detailing yesterday on the truck from afar like this. Of course, we're going to have the big muffler on the back will be all rusted to there and back. Alright, now let's get some spots on here. Let's rinse this off. Let's get some spots on here that we want to definitely stand out. Let's see which one of these we want to use. I know which one we want to use. Where is she? Right here. Remember, this is going to get dusting on top of it after that. So some of this will be softened up. These little latches and stuff to pop a little bit. Run this along the edge. this little line, this little dividing line here in the plates. German tanks tend to have a lot of different plates where they change angle, and if you highlight that with a lighter color, it makes them really kind of pop. Especially like the roof of a Panzer II. If you don't add those little things on the roof of a Panzer II almost looks like a solid thing, even though it's got all these little angle changes on it. Let's get one drop of flow aid on here. Let's thin this down a little bit. I like putting some I call them scratches, but they're kind of just things that have just happened along the way. Not a lot of them, but just a few. All right, what do we got on the roof here that we can detail up? Now these hatches for sure. Man, it felt like a Sunday there for a second. It's not. It's a Saturday. Thank goodness it's Saturday. That's what I say. People like Mitch that have to work today, they don't think so much, but I work a normal Monday through Friday schedule, so. It's a happy day for me. This one guy that I know was running, put advertising, was going to run a game at a hobby store on a Wednesday. Wednesday at 1 p.m. I'm like, what kind of a retired slacker runs a game at 1 p.m. on a Wednesday? I guess you don't want people to show up for it. That's a work day, man. And let's do a couple of these across the roof. Nothing major, but let's take a look at what I've done. You know, from gaming distance, man, I think it looks great. It's really easy to do. It just takes a little bit of, a little bit of focus. All right, we still got some water here? We do. All right, let's paint the area for decals. Come on. There we go. This is definitely a lot quicker than the one yesterday. Well, we don't have any camouflage on it. We'll camouflage the other ones. I don't think the flamethrower one needs to be camouflaged. All right, let's. I don't know if I can fit one in there, but we'll gloss that anyways. And this is just Pledge Floor Care, which was a pain in the butt to find. So I wanted something I could brush on, and it was acrylic. This will last till I spill it. This will last forever. Nope, it'll last until I spill it. It's probably going to get spilled at some point. Just got to be realistic about that. Okay, German crosses. We're going to not do solid ones. We're just going to do the white ones with the outline, just to mix it up a little bit. I don't like all these vehicles looking exactly the same. So let's get our brush that we have a lot of confidence in, which I believe is this one. I really don't want to use the wet palette. It just takes up so much space. I'm not going to use the wet palette. It takes up so much space. Takes up so much space for something really, really small and detail oriented that I'm doing. Let's get the white out here. And let's get a little bit of black. Because I like to add a little bit of black to this when well, not that much. I don't need very much. All right, so let's go right here. This should be good. All right, so I don't know that I can get one on this other side, so I may just forego not putting one on here. I'm going to put one back here on the rear. And I'm going to put one right there at somewhere in this zone. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paint it solid. Oh, it's hard to see. Really hard to see. And then we'll come and do the corners and clean it up with yellow in the middle. And we don't need to jump onto that one. We'll do them individually. Let's lighten up a little bit more. better than the other one. I could hardly even see. Okay, now let's add the damn near pure white. Now we're going to come in and clean that up with the yellow in the middle. Which we have some. But we're going to need to darken it a little bit. Maybe even a little bit more than that. A little lighter than that. And then we'll clean it up with the white one more time. And then we'll do the same thing on the rear. I'm back. Didn't know you left. 15mm Prussians drying from homemade wash using inks and floor pledge. Smell tasty. My floor care smells great. It really does. Very pleasant. And so does my that glue from California. It smells like orange peel. True story. I actually had some Prussians. I want to say they were from Battle Honors. I'm really happy with that. It's not that noticeable, unfortunately, for you guys, but let's do the same thing back here in the corner. I had picked up some Prussians at some point, 15mm from Battle. I want to say they were from Battle Honors, and 2 packs of them, I think. I had played with this group, 1813 Prussians, and some cannons or whatever, but I never did anything with them. I probably would hate how they look now. But nice thing is I've got to play Napoleonics. I don't have to build any. Mitch has tons of stuff. So let's drop it here. And then let's just do the verticals. The horizontal, sorry. Looks like crap when you end up just doing a white cross like they did in Poland. Then you gotta, once you tinker with it, looks all right then. All right. We need a little bit more white to put on there. I haven't tried doing my own wash, but other than this wash of the Agrax Earthshade, I don't wash anymore. I used to a lot in the 90s when I did ships and stuff. But if I didn't do that Agrax Earthshade, it wouldn't look as good. It would. I got that idea from a YouTuber. You know, I watch other people's stuff. I'm like, oh, let's give that a shot. Ooh, I like that. We need to go brighter than that. Right here, the secret is the flow aid. Well, in a brush, you can trust. And a table that doesn't move on you. You got a moving table, it's forget it. All right. Now let's clean this thing up. Let's clean the center. No, more of the core color. More of this core color. The more I use this paint, the more I like it. The more I use this AK, the more I like it. I don't know that I'm ever going to like it as much as Vallejo, but it's just watery. It's not lack of tint. I thought it was like, oh, this is just, they just thinned it down for me. No, it covers really well. It's just pretty thin. When I did the first vehicle, I was disappointed with it. And that wasn't last night. That was when I did the Stug. The Stug. But like I said, I'll end up rebuying this stuff when I'm out. That's good. I didn't buy it hoping it was gonna suck. That would be stupid. I'm gonna get bold enough to try to lighten it up a little bit. And remember, we're going to dust over that, so I could almost get away with painting numbers by hand. I just want them to look a lot neater than... They're good for Russian numbers, but Germans brought their stencils with them. Yeah, one little boogered up spot, tiny. And I'll have to worry about, I got to find the decal on the right, in the right shape, the right size. And so forth. I'm actually going to come back over to this other one over here. Okay. Let's look at some numbers. I'm thinking there's going to be black. I'm probably going to end up having to use these. Let's look at that old SU one. They're probably going to explode. They're probably really old numbers. That's what happens to old decals. You put them on there and they just like shatter. These are from the Panzer IV set. Those just have 2 and 3 on them. Let me see if I can get the black one small enough to fit on the side, in front of the smoke dischargers, or behind the smoke dischargers. And if so, we'll go with those. If not, we will go with these. I don't think these are going to survive. I can already tell that they're already got something on them. Let's see if these 2 3s will work. I have a feeling these decals are too old. All right, let that percolate for a little bit. If not, we're going to use these black ones I don't think that I can get more than 2 digits there underneath the smoke dischargers. We'll see. Hope these will work. Problem solved. Where's the microset? Microsol that I don't have much use for. It's kind of unnecessary. They both might be actually unnecessary. I have them, so I said, well, I might as well use this one. Or the vinegar stuff. Well, they haven't shattered yet. That's a good sign. I took old decals, I put them in water, and you could see where it was like you'd hit glass with a hammer. They had dried out so much that's what had happened to them. Just trying to be careful. I don't think I could have gotten 3 digits in here. Do the same thing on the other side over here. I'm telling you, my tweezers that are real thin are out in the garage. So I'm having to I can't believe these decals worked, to be honest with you. I just usually let them dry. So you try to dab it, you'll like, just before you dab it, you'll end up like twisting it. And then, you got to re-wet it and move it again. Okay, and then the 2 on the back. Not the 2 on the back, the 2 and the 3 on the back. How about that? Now let's take a look at this thing all together. Then we'll do the tracks next. While this is drying out. Of course, we don't have weathering on it yet. Honestly, it looks pretty good. Now there is a little bit of gap here where the 2 pieces happen in the front. I'm going to leave that alone. I'm not going to mess on trying to putty that up. It's a war game model, for God's sakes. Actually, before we do that, we need to do the rusty muffler. And I'm not messing with the wet palette. It just takes up too much space. I got to change the paper on it as well. So we're going to use orange, brown, black. That's what I like to use. We still have black here to use. Let's put some orange, brown there. And seven folks. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Not sure who's on here, but if you guys are new, you know, I don't know who you are unless you speak up. You don't have to speak up. You can hang out. Want to bring something up, something you might have a question with, subject, whatever. Just along for the ride, that's fine too. These things are always rusty, all this stuff. It's painted, and then it gets super, 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 super hot, and the paint comes off of that because of that, and then it corrodes. Almost impossible to find a photograph of a German tank that has this muffler system, or any muffler system for that matter, that isn't completely corroded and damn near orange, damn near bright orange. I don't like going super bright on this. And I found that this this color, this orange brown, seems to work pretty well for me. I want to say I used to use that kind of a mixture similar to that for like the track color, but I've since stepped away from doing that. Well, this is still wet a little bit. Honestly, this kind of makes the vehicle look like shit most of the time. But it's just a fact of life that it's always rusty. And actually, the spray or something actually gave it some texture, so it doesn't look half bad. In other words, it almost looks like it's corroded. And I believe this thing gave it, I forget what the wading capability is, but it allowed it to wade in deeper terrain than normal. Let's do this one. get a little bit better control of the situation. Oh, what do we do? We didn't clean this properly? Get some Myers soap to clean all that stuff out. I had a spill last week. Well, not a spill last week, but actually I did have a spill last week. I had a coffee spill, but that's not what I was getting at. I actually I had paint that was on the cardboard, and I put my wet palette on it. I didn't realize it, and then I went and put the wet palette on my pants. So I ended up getting paint on my pants, and that Myers soap took it right out. So just happened we have that for our hand soap in the house, and that stuff works really well. I'm not a big fan of how it smells, but it works great to get the paint off the paintbrushes. Sometimes you discover something just by making a mistake. And then we're gonna bring this up one more. That's probably too much. It's probably too much. I feel liberated being able to do my own crosses, because I was having a hell of a time trying to get them the right size and the right thing, and you don't need to keep ordering stuff. At some point you got to use the stuff you have, not just keep throwing money at the problem. Okay. Got all the black stuff to paint. Which is quite a few things, and then the tracks. All right, let's get. What time is it? 8:30. See if we can knock this thing out. I have a little bit of a headache. I see you. I see you. You're going to cause trouble if I don't take care of this right now. Patriot, I don't know if you're still on here, but I did take a look at the Butler's printed models, and they make quite a few things. Have you bought any of their stuff, or you just seen them online? Because I'm concerned that you can actually see like the lines of the 3D printing on there. And I'm not sure if they're resin or not. You need to put out an APB on the recommendations for the best 3D printed models in resin. I don't want ones that show the little lines on them. If I'm going to spend this much time on them, I want them to make sure they don't have that issue. Oh, these are a lot better than the Altaias. There's like literally a rim there to lay your paintbrush up against. Have you gotten those Butler printed models? Have you gotten any of this stuff? And do the lines show up on it? Because I looked at several of them, and it looked like they might actually be visible. Which, with my painting style as thin as I paint, all that stuff's gonna pop. I miss the old Cromwell models that were made out of resin. That's probably the nicest miniatures out there for vehicles. But they're out, they're under. And there's some people in England selling them, but man, they know they're out of print. There's like a pack of like 3 Mark 6 tanks and want like $55 for them plus shipping. I'm like, gee whiz, that's way too much. $125th. Oh, $125th. Okay, bought his latest high detail printer resin, no lines. I say talk to him offline email. Okay. Well, I may just email him and said, hey, send me a good picture of this particular vehicle because there's one particular vehicle I'm kind of interested in getting. So if I don't know what to do, I need to get like 6 of them, and I want at least one of them with an open hatch for the commander. But it's not a priority thing. It's not anything that I need right now. It's not anything that I need, period. We're just having fun doing this, so. That's the bad thing about all these Altaia ones, that they have the hatches closed. Now, if there's one vehicle that deserves to have a hatch closed, it's the Flampanzer. You don't need to have your hatch open for that. Unless you like that smell of roasted Russian. BMP3 ERA was amazing. Okay. That's something I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into printing that stuff myself. I got enough. I can do this. I don't need to do that too. And the last thing I need to get is frustrated, and my wife will not like it if I come back working on a hobby and getting frustrated. She'd be like, you don't need to work on your hobby anymore. You come back unhappy. Instead of happy. See, I'll be in a good mood all day long because I got something productive knocked out in the morning. What rules you play for 285th? Oh, that's still wet. Nope. Okay, good. Whew. I was disappointed that my combined arms didn't go into the 50s. It didn't have stats for an M103. I'm fascinated by that vehicle. The old heavy tank thing. Modern Spearhead Cold War Commander. Okay. I didn't know that they had a modern spearhead. Is Cold War Commander also 1 to 5 scale? Which, by the way, I like 1 to 5. That's why I grew up playing with command decision, so I don't find it weird. I'm used to that. Used to looking at 3 tanks and go, oh, that's a company, or what have you. Seems natural. Check Messenger. Okay. I can't do it right now, but I will. Absolutely. I had modern stuff for combined arms. I had Arab-Israeli stuff for the 73 war. I got those pretty late, so they actually looked pretty decent. I forget how I did them, but I had Centurions and Super Shermans, and I think I had some Pattons too. The Super Shermans are just sexy. This is a really, really good looking tank with a barrel that long. The 105 Super Shermans, I should say. Would not want to be in a turret. A Sherman turret with a 105 going off. Really good looking vehicle. You own older rules too, combined arms, fistful of toes. I forgot about fistful of toes. Your friend in Tasmania. Oh, the devil himself. So that'd be cool to do like a fold-a-gap type battle in like the late 50s or whatever. So you've got like all 3 tank types. You got heavy tanks, you got mediums, and you got lights. So you'd have like M48s or M47s for the Americans, M103s for the heavies, and Walker Bulldogs for the lights. I don't know what you would call the Soviet light tank at the time. Maybe the T-55s. I don't know. Well, let's see. If it was in 59, it wouldn't even have T-62s. T-62s didn't come out yet. So you'd have like T-10s and shit like that. I know that I played Command. The problem I don't like about Command Decision is there aren't that many useful decisions that you make every turn. I mean, there's decisions you make, but they're almost always obvious. Like, well, I'm not going to move full because I only fire in the last fire phase kind of thing. So you always either move half or stay put. So, that's one thing that appealed to me about DBA is not necessarily the period of DBA, but that every single turn there's meaningful stuff that you have to do. There's lots of things that require decisions that are very important, that can dramatically alter what you're doing. Coming from a background of somebody that all they used to do is play like micro armor and naval games. Yeah, you just go broadside, try to get as many guns, optimize the range you're at, and minimize the other guys. You start adding stuff like, pips and things like that, the game becomes a lot more interesting. There's a lot of things to think about. And the stuff we've been working on off and on makes your pips even more interesting, even more things you have to consider doing. But that's the fun part where it's like you got to make hard decisions. Like, man, I want to do 10 things and I can only do 3. What am I going to do? And you got to prioritize, and hopefully you made the right decision. He's a ship engineer on a large commercial fishing ship. He has 5 or more printers dialed in. The models he does is typically 1/72, but he can do about anything. He may not be able to charge you. What's that mean? He doesn't have a way of taking money? Well, we'll see. I'll check my whatever you sent me. Yeah, I grew up doing 1/72 because I fell in love with these miniatures that I saw at a hobby store that at the time they were called combat miniatures here in the US, but they're the sculpts from Dave Alsop and I absolutely love those figures. And since then, there's other figures that have come along that I almost hold in the same regard. But and honestly, if I was going to do Napoleonics, I love his Old Glory 15 millimeter Napoleonics. I just like the styling of them. And there's other ones that I like too, but I liked his dynamic figures. So like I don't like American Civil War at all, but his American Civil War figures from Old Glory are just gorgeous, including his like general set. Like he has kind of like Games Workshop did, that it would tell you the name of who the guy is, yeah, on the piece of flash between the legs, and it's pretty freaking cool. Mr. Kevin, welcome. Welcome back. I thought you had played DBA before, Kevin. I didn't realize you had never played. You hadn't got a chance to play yet. There was a guy from our DBA group that when I first started playing in 2004, in like the next year or something like that, him and his wife, and they both used to play. They were older, so they were probably late 60s at the time or something like that. They were retired and they moved out to Arizona. So I don't know if they. I hate to say it, they may not. I don't know if they're still alive. I mean, because they were older, and that was a while ago. But there were some nice folks, and they were playing DBA here in Florida when I first started. But they moved out to Arizona somewhere, and I'm sure I'll still build DBA armies. I'm not going to play the rules, but I'm still going to build armies based on that because I like the scale of the game. The game just needs a little bit more, less abstraction and more historical flavor. But we've probably played 10 or no more than that, probably 14 or 16 games adding stuff to it, and it's definitely improved the game. Everybody's enjoyed it a lot more, but it's not something I'm going to put on cons, or certainly not something I'm going to sell. You know, it's just kind of doing it for the love of it, because you know I do like those type of games, but I'm done structuring my entire life around at shows putting on games. And the other thing is I don't want to play. I feel like I have a responsibility of like taking pictures of the games and posting. I just can't walk away from it. I'm either going to do it right or I'm not going to do it at all. So other people say, oh, you can just play and not post any of that stuff. I don't want. If I'm playing a game, I want it to be successful, and I want other people to talk about the game and stuff like that. I don't want to just people thinking, be being excited about this game and it's, dying. I thought for sure that once they got the rules by, Lulu, print on demand, anybody could get the rules. That was the first handicap. That everything else would straighten itself out, but I'm not sure an unofficial guide would even fix it. And I don't want to play a game that has all these things that I'm just dealing with and isn't played the same way worldwide. I'd rather just say, you know what, I'm gonna come up with my own stuff, and we can fix all the problems that we have with it and make it less abstract and make it make more sense. Retail 3D licenses are expensive. I played WRG in Texas when I was in the Army. Modern Challenger rules go way back. I have them as collectors of rules. I remember the cover, yeah. All right, I think we got that to the point where it needs to be. We got a machine gun here to paint. We have some tools. The shovel once again. Clippers. The old jack. This thing that always seems to be. I always thought painting road wheels was a pain in the ass, but man, after doing like 15mm figures, there's things that are so much more of a pain in the ass than the road wheels. Road wheels aren't actually that bad. Especially if they got a rim or something that you can put the paintbrush up against and just roll around it. With some flow aid, it's not really that bad. Not really that time consuming. Okay, while that's drying, we're going to get some Nuln oil and drop it in this exhaust. Should be this one? Yep. All right. I printed up some air recognition flags for the Nazi tanks and haven't put them on a tank yet. But they didn't print out exactly how I wanted them to. They look good on screen, and then when I went to print them, this is why I don't want to do 3D printing. I went to print them, they were more elongated than they looked. So I'm going to drape them over stuff, so I think they'll be okay. Or if not, I don't know what I'm going to have to do. But it's annoying to have something that looks a certain way. Yeah, that's great, print it, and then it doesn't look like that. I'm like, what the hell happened? We don't want to put them on video live. I can get into trouble, not necessarily with complaints from people, just automated stuff that's out there, you know. Now we're going to go do, I think we got enough time to do the tracks. Let's take a look at this and step away from it. Man, it looks great at 3 feet away. You can see all the contrast. Okay, where's the tracks at? Both of these? Not looking forward to this part. Let's get SS Camo Black. Where is it? This one? Yep. Let's get this. Let's switch to this. It should be fine. Let's get a square-ish brush. Mainly because I don't have much of a use for these. You would think that it'd be easier to paint, you know, square lines and stuff with a square. Nope, it's not. That would make sense, so it's definitely not that. Doesn't have to be perfect, just like the other one, but we do need to have this color on it. Luckily, it's not a really light color. We'd have to cover more of it. And then when we go and dust this, we will do so with it on the tank. In other words, we're going to just put it on the tank like this. We're not going to add more colors to it because we can dirty it up where it's going to be seen. Okay. When you start using rubber tracks like this is when it's nice to have these guys on stand so that this stuff sits a little better. Let's make sure we don't have any of the stuff that comes off. Will this work? Will this work as a quickie? Yeah, it will. Wow. Well, it's not a whole lot of paint that's on it, so this will work for now. think we want this track, the joining part, to be at the bottom. Be easier to hide it there than at the top. I didn't check which way that the pattern was, and I got it right the first time. Okay, and do the same thing on the other side. I gotta be careful with this one. This one I didn't staple. In other words, this one actually, I did the old hot screwdriver thing, and it stayed on there. My hobby that has other people in the area is slot cars. Guess that makes me a racist. I don't know where you're going with that, but depends on who's calling you that. I guess we could all be, this one's upside down. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. It's like this. I printed up a bunch of Nazi flags yesterday. I guess that makes me a racist. Hey, I'm just putting the flags on the Nazi tanks. That's what they had them. You got to put them on there so you get motivated to blow those bastards up. I don't know that race cars are racist. Not to me, anyways. Okay. Sorry, you'll have to try harder to be racist. Okay, other than the weathering, actually, I'm going to check on one thing I may have to cut out. I'll be right back. Okay. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Hey, folks, man, good morning to you guys. You like that color? Where do the Germans use that? Looks kind of greenish. You guys aren't getting the real color. Yeah, I totally agree that it looks greenish to you. Where do we use it? After February 1943, all of their vehicles were painted this color. I personally like the Germans gray, but I don't get the design in the army. If I did, they'd be a lot less racist. Oh man, let's get some of this stuff on here. Nope, we got to do this afterwards because we're just going to end up dusting this up, which is why we've left the wooden parts off as well. So yeah, this is actually this color, but with the wash and everything and highlighting, it kind of changes it quite a bit. And oh, how stupid of me. I need to do the tracks because there's spare tracks on the front for extra armor. I like this dark brown as a rustified type of track color. I think it works well for me. I don't really like when people go in bright orange and stuff. I mean, yes, it'll turn into that, and as soon as it starts picking up dirt and all those other kind of nutrients, all that orange stuff will flake off with all the movement. If anything would be orange, it'd be this track right here, but okay. Now, hopefully that can dry quick because we got to do some stuff to it. All right, the stuff we got to do to it is U.S. Field Drab. I don't know that I really like. Oh, did I not rinse this? I don't know that I actually like this color on the yellow vehicles in the back. It's one of the colors in the groundwork. The ground will end up looking like this. Obviously, we'll have some greenery on it, but I don't know that I like this mid shade. But I'm on that horse. I do like the Iraqi sand. The Iraqi sand pretty much makes everything look better. Maybe we'll just go kind of light on it this time. This color. Just has a little bit more clay than I would like. And I don't like vehicles that are super heavily weathered because why'd you bother even painting it so nicely if you're just going to cover all the stuff over? Oh, I still have the the cable that's welded in there is very minuscule, not to scale. I don't know that I'm going to go any higher than more than that. Let's get the Iraqi sand. You end up undoing everything you did, so. This is definitely more of a charred appearance on the front. And that's the intent. I think I'm going to leave it as is. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. You've tried the brown and green with the dots. Ambush scheme? I have a panther that's painted an ambush scheme. It looks okay. It's okay. It was done a long time ago. I mean, I wouldn't be happy with it looking like that now, but you know, my painting's gotten better. Hopefully, as you go along, your painting gets better, not the other way. That's a discouraging thing to do, is to have your stuff look worse and worse and worse. You know, to you as the creator. Okay, wooden block is up next. And the wood parts. Again, we're not going to get the wet palette out here. I need to switch that out today. There's the beige brown out. No, lots of things that are similar, but not quite. Well, we don't have to use exactly the same color wood. We can use a different one. Honestly, probably the same. Can't tell the difference between them. We need some black. Did you ever dry brush your DBA figures? Absolutely not. No, the most I would do is, the terrain is done the same way. But no. Very, very little on like the chainmail, but no dry brushing on them at all. And I still wouldn't dry brush them. It's not a look that I care for. It's too uncontrollable. It just works well. I think it works well for dirt in this scale. This is a wooden block that the jack, this thing here, would sit on. When you're trying to jack up one of these road wheels to switch them out, is what I've been told what they're for. All right, we need this is going to soak up big time, but I'm lazy. I got it right here. Not lazy. I've done plenty of things that took a lot longer. I don't need to create extra steps. I really want to stop. I've been doing this like almost 9 hours in the last 24 hours, so I need to give my back a break. It doesn't hurt right now, but also don't want to stop in the middle of something. So we are nearly done with this guy here. I wish I had a wet palette that was really small, because I could like bring it in and do some of this other stuff, but because that one just takes up a lot of real estate on here. All right, let's go to this pure color right here. And what else? We got a handle here. Handle there. And let's get a little bit of white. I used to do a lot of dry brush in the 90s. And then I just hate it. I used to do a lot of washing and dry brushing in the 90s. I just didn't like it. I didn't like how it looked. Now I'm doing washing and dry brushing, and I do like how it looked, but it's different. It's more precise than before. One step more, one step more. Okay. There you have it. Now we got to make another base for this other one. Should have made 2 of these. I didn't think I was going to get this second tank done so soon. But here they are. Pins are 3L and flampons are M. And they look a hell of a lot better than when I started. And we'll dull coat these, and so you can see this has got some shine on here from the light coming. So we'll fix that up. And yeah. Okay, thanks for joining me, folks. Don't know that I'll be back on today, but definitely tomorrow morning. We'll see you guys then. Enjoy your Saturday.